This is GameSHOUT Radio, the #1 talk game station in the world. Visit GameSHOUT.com for more info. GameSHOUT. GameSHOUT. And now, it's time for the award-winning PC game reviews by GameSHOUT. The GameSHOUT PC game reviews.
Welcome back to GameSHOUT Radio. This is Captain Maverick. I am your host for the PC Playground. Got a couple of great news stories for you here. First of all, let's go to California. January 1st was to be the day that marked the beginning of California's strict anti-violent video game law. You know, the law that stated that ultra-violent video games could not be purchased by consumers younger than 18. Well, any retailers who sold these games to consumers younger than 18 would face fines and, well, other penalties. Now, federal judges blocked the law, stating how difficult it is to enforce such a video game-related laws. Judge Ronald White, he blocked the law. He said that the law would violate free speech rights of video game makers. Doesn't make sense to me, though. I mean, I'm looking at that as they should be looking at, what are we doing with movies? Well, for those, the law, however, is, those supporters, the law is, of that law, Governor Schwarzenegger, he's planning to appeal it, and it's getting closer and closer to becoming a state law that will be enforced. And that is something that we may see in other states. We do see it in the state of Michigan. Yep. And speaking of video game and laws, let's go to our friend, Mr. Jack Thompson. And you remember listening to Mr. Thompson on our show here a few months back? Well, in a recent letter to Take-Two Interactive, Florida-based attorney Jack Thompson has demanded that Take-Two Interactive recall all of their copies of The Warriors, Manhunt, and Grand Theft Auto on all platforms from retailers by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, today. Now, Thompson makes a note, of the beatings of 3 homeless men in Fort Lauderdale, Florida last week by a couple of teenagers who claimed that they were inspired by video games to do such a thing. What do you think? Well, Mr. Thompson's letter to CEO Paul Iber includes things such as, quote, "Your company has made and distributed the most popular violent video game series of all time, Grand Theft Auto games. And these GTA games beating innocent people to death with baseball bats is featured entertainment activity. Our company has also distributed Manhunt, which features the same, or your company distributed Manhunt, which features the same kind of baseball bat beatings. This game is so psychopathic that it has been banned from certain countries." Whoa, it's kind of amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, he says, additionally, your company during the past holiday buying season launched an incredibly brutal brawler game called The Warriors, which also features death by baseball bat. The Warriors is based on a 1979 movie with the same name. It was yanked, in effect, by Paramount Pictures because of all the copycat violence that it was spawning. So Mr. Thompson is jumping back into the fray, not just against Howard Stern, but now he's going back against more video games and Take-Two again. Let's see how this one turns out. I'm looking forward to finding out. But while we're waiting, we're going to jump on over to our buddy TrickNeal, who's going to give us a preview of RF Online.
The battle between planets has begun. It's been 3 years now. B-71 sector is where the Allied powers and Egoraptor have met. The demand for its valuable natural resources have brought us to the height of this war.
Okay, when you first log into www.rf-onlinegame.com, one simple command flashes across the screen. Declare your allegiance. And that's a pretty good place to start this preview because, you see, unlike the wildly popular World of Warcraft, you have 3 races to choose from when you're selecting your alliance. And this choice, as it is on just about every other MMO, will determine who your friends and enemies are. But before we start taking sides, let's find out basically what the game's about. Now, this is according to the official site's description of the game. RF Online is an epic mix of traditional fantasy MMO game mixed with unique futuristic sci-fi action to bring an entirely new and original take on the existing MMORPG genre. Set in a deep space galaxy known as Novus, take your pick from 3 all-powerful warring factions leading your character into the final battle for total control over the entire Novus galaxy. Now, these are your races you can choose from. The Balado Union utilize machines and some magic in their culture. They're renowned for their great mechanical minds, intelligence, and hand-eye coordination. The Balado can construct huge armored battle mechs and weapons to use in the war. You can also choose from the Holy Alliance Korra. It's a spiritual civilization with a firm belief in religion and the magical arts. Though the history of the Korra has been built on religious wars, which has created multiple states and nations, the country is strongly unified through its core religious beliefs. And then finally, the Accretion Empire. They follow a totalitarian regime where goals are for the Empire, a thought that is embraced by its followers. There's no feeling when it comes to the destruction of other races, and for good reason. The Accretion are a race of mechanized units with materialistic thinking. Now, as for the classes you have to choose from, you get 4 when you're joining with the Balado or the Korra alliances. You have your Warrior, which is your basic melee fighter, your Ranger, which is speedy and stealthy with some ranged attacks, a Spiritualist, which is your basic magic user, and a Specialist, which is a unique class with specific traits depending on your race. Now, if you choose Accretion, you'll be able to select all of those except for the Spiritualist because, well, they're just machines. On the official website, there's a few short chapters written in their lore section that give a little more background into the whole story, but there isn't any information yet about the quests. None of the screenshots give any clue as to what the menu or the heads-up display are going to look like. The preview videos look, they show great graphics, but they seem to be on par with games like World of Warcraft, but unless you're in the beta, it seems like there's not that much information about it. At any rate, I'm really excited by the entire 3-race system, and I really am eager for the game to go public so I can get in and try it out. But otherwise, we're pretty much just stuck waiting for the actual company to let us get a little bit more information. So keep yourselves tuned in to GameSHOUT.com. We're going to have more information on this game as things come up, and we'll be back with PC Playground a little bit more after this.
You're listening to GameSHOUT Radio, and if you're into Xbox 360, you're going to want to catch the Gamepad Gamers Xbox 360 Edition Mini Podcast. Want news about your favorite console? It's in there. Want reviews about only the games that matter? It's in there. Want previews of only the hottest games for your console? It's in there. So be sure to find out more about the games, news, previews, and reviews that matter from the only gaming site that matters, GameSHOUT.com. And welcome back to GameSHOUT Radio. This is Captain Maverick, and you're listening to the PC Playground. All right, hang on, guys. We've got the review by Soulrift of Hammer and Sickle coming right up.
Hammer and Sickle is a tactical RPG based on the highly acclaimed Silent Storm engine, in which players take on the role of a top Soviet super spy as he attempts to uncover a plot that could lead to global nuclear annihilation. The game offers an engrossing storyline that allows players to choose their own paths through a wide variety of missions and environments. No 2 games will ever be the same, and choices made in one mission will affect later missions in the game, from the reactions of townsfolk to the level of military awareness in the area. The game engine gives players the maximum amount of flexibility in gameplay, while offering top-tier graphics. Players will be able to view their surroundings from multiple angles and levels, panning and tilting the camera for an optimal overview of their environment, while using audio and visual cues to spot approaching guards and plot a way to take them out. Hammer and Sickle's role-playing system allows for full character customization, from clothing and facial features to skills and ability scores. Characters gain experience, which they can use to increase their skills associated with their character classes, giving players a true RPG experience.
Alright, Hammer and Sickle, for all intents and purposes, is just, I gotta say it right out, it's a mod of a game. Now you see, back in 2003, or 2004, I can't remember the exact year, but Nivel Entertainment released a really wonderful game called Silent Storm. This was a third-person tactical turn-based, essentially like a role-playing game, a tactical role-playing game, because you'd have your characters, you'd gain experience points, you'd go up levels, but it was also a tactical shooter, and it was based in World War II, and it was absolutely wonderful. It was fully 3D, and I think the coolest thing everyone agreed on was that the environments were fully destructible. Every single house, every single building in the entire game could be completely demolished. And actually, I remember having a ball of a time taking my engineer, planting explosives around like a giant castle, and then walking back and hitting the trigger, and just the whole thing would just go crumbling down with all the enemies inside, and it was great fun. And then they released a sequel to that game, or an expansion, I should say, Silent Storm Sentinels, and then, you know, that one just wasn't quite as good. The missions weren't that well designed, the gameplay was essentially the same, but somehow slightly less fun, and, you know, here we come along with Hammer and Sickle. Hammer and Sickle is built upon the exact same engine from Silent Storm. And sure enough, you know, the classes are still the same. You have 6 classes to choose from, but 2 of them are only available if you actually go into the advanced character creation. That's because instead of giving you a squad of 6 members to play with, you only have 1 character. They've changed it from a squad-based tactical game into more of a single first-person role-playing game, something trying to be, I guess, like Fallout, except it doesn't quite grab the role-playing aspect that it should. First of all, the combat, it's still balanced towards having a squad of 6. So if your one guy gets shot, you can get knocked down to half health, and then lose your ability to actually shoot back at your enemies and essentially be screwed and having to restart the whole mission all over again. You can play around with a lot of the difficulty options and actually tweak things to make enemies like 3 times less lower level than you are, and do half as much damage, and you do like 4 times as much damage, and boost out your skills so you can just walk around the game and click once on every enemy and just instantly one-shot kill them, whereas they can't even hit you at all. But you still later on end up picking up some allies that join your cause, but the game just arbitrarily takes them in and out of your party. See, they've added this whole economy system that was sort of introduced in Sentinels, and that is that you've got to pick up loot, you know, other guns and stuff from the battlefield, take it back down to town and sell it for some cash to buy better gear, and to accomplish your missions you need some cash for all of that. Well, you know, I remember at one point I get my first ally, I'm like, alright, let's go. We go off to a mission, we kill a whole bunch of people, I fill her inventory full of great weapons that I just can't wait to get back to town and sell. As soon as we walk out of town, it plays a little scripted event, oh, I'm losing my ally right now, and all those weapons that I had picked up just got taken away from me, and I was just infuriated to no extreme. Anyways, you know, overall, I just found Hammer and Sickle just wasn't as much fun as the original Silent Storm. The missions just weren't that well made, weren't that much fun. A lot of frustration with the whole single-player character and just working like a role-playing game into this great tactical shooter interface. I'm gonna have to give this one only 6 out of 10. Oh, I'm sorry, but you know,
only
it's still
6 out of 10.
Yeah, only 6 out of 10 because, you know, it isn't groundbreaking graphics. It's the same graphics, the same graphics engine as the original Silent Storm. There's nothing new. They haven't added any graphical features, at least as far as I can tell, that actually improve the game any. The AI hasn't been significantly improved either, and they've actually just taken away a lot of those elements that made the original Silent Storm so much fun, the team-based elements. And you still have the 6 classes, right? But you can only play one of them as your main character, and the game is just balanced around having, you know, all those 6 classes to choose from. You have your engineer that can use the engineering gear. Well, now you can only use engineering gear, which is still available and actually quite necessary to play through the missions. You can't disarm bombs unless you've got engineering skill, but the engineer isn't even one of the default classes the game allows you to select. So there's a whole bunch of problems. I could just go on and on about it. Sorry, Mav. Well, back to you.
I'm just bumming. It sounded like a great title. Well, hey, tonight we looked at a lot of good games, RF Online and Hammer and Sickle, but there's always more next week. And hang on, we got the MMO show coming up right after.
This This is GameSHOUT Radio, the #1 talk game station in the world. Visit GameSHOUT.com for more info. GameSHOUT. GameSHOUT.